Hey there. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Hilmar. I'm one of the founders and legendary members of Gelato. Gelato is a protocol to automate smart contract executions on Ethereum. And yeah, I personally entered the space in 2016 when the DAO was launched, and I actually read about Bitcoin and Ethereum before it, but I wasn't it didn't catch on to me too much. But then with the DAO, I really got into it. I participated. I had to buy Ether. I had to download the MISC browser, everything, and start working with smart contracts. And yeah, of course, the DAO hack happened, but I got hooked, and then I entered Ethereum. Back then, now, like in 2018, I think Luis, the second co-founder of Gelato, and I, who are friends we are best friends for 10 years, so we hang together in Berlin at that time. We co-founded a company together where we did like projects more on the private permissioned blockchain space back then with large institutions in Germany and helped them build like POCs, which was technically really compelling, but at some point boring, didn't take off. But yeah, we learned a lot, and then we started hacking on the public Ethereum space, went to a lot of hackathons like here in Paris, East Paris last 3 years ago, won a couple of prizes, and then got into contact with Gnosis, who were building some decentralized exchanges, and we helped them with that, and we had to automate certain aspects of their applications, and through that we realized that there's this whole infrastructure missing that makes it very easy, and that's how Gelato came about, and this is how we started it back then.
Thank you for that. So we already branched a little bit on what Gelato does, but from the first answer we can get, okay, it's underlying tech that other protocols use. Can you maybe give us an example of that? How is your tech used by others? What do you do?
Yeah, so developer teams or protocol development teams, they use Gelato to outsource all of the DevOps related to running bots that are automatically executing certain transactions on the user's behalf, for example. And what they would normally have to do in order to actually, let's say, every day call a certain smart contract, they would have to write bots like servers, bots that monitor a certain condition and then execute a transaction. They would have to maintain it. They would have to run it. They would have to hire people that monitor it all the time, right? And then what they end up with is basically they built this decentralized application, but suddenly they are the only ones running these bots, right? So it's completely centralized again. If their bot goes down, usually the whole system crashes. Like in Maker, for example, they have these functions that update the price oracle. So if the price oracles are not updated, everything will hit the fan, right? So the system is not that decentralized, actually. So many systems are actually not that decentralized with that. So what usually these projects do is they create like complex incentives in their systems that incentivize outside parties to actually run bots for them and get multiple parties to join in, so that if one of the developers goes down the service, that the whole system doesn't stop. But this requires you to like build these incentive schemes, and this will require you to offer to some of these bot operators quite a lot of value that they are able to extract out of your system in order to pay for. They are setting up the infrastructure. They are paying for all the services that are required to run these bots, etc., which is non-trivial. So there are a lot of costs involved with that. And with Gelato, basically what they can do is they can skip the whole process of building the bot, maintaining and running it. They can just, and building like complex incentive schemes, they can just plug into an existing decentralized network of bots that they can task to execute any transactions on Ethereum or other EVM-based chains, and then in the future maybe also other networks. And the good thing about this is Gelato doesn't only execute transactions for one app, like for example, InstaDApp are our customers or KeeperDAO are our customers. We aggregate them across multiple dApps. So the value these bots have to extract from each transaction is much less, because they don't only have like one transaction they need to call every day on one application. They have like hundreds on 100 apps. So they only need to extract so much value to compensate the fixed cost that they have. And so it's actually cheaper for you to use Gelato rather than building your own incentive system to decentralize the process of automating your smart contracts. So that's basically why developer teams use Gelato, and there are a bunch of them that are live today. and more to come in the future.
That's very interesting. I very much like the fact that you're not like a standalone protocol, just offering something, but it's rather tech that others use to improve or to make things work. I have to admit, I was using Gelato's tech without knowing it with InstantApp. Can you maybe explain what you're doing there? How does that work?
Yeah. So on InstantApp, InstantApp leverages Gelato for multiple things. One thing is to automate the refinance of MakerDAO debt positions to Aave before they get liquidated. So there are like large whales on InstantApp that have these $1 million CDPs or vaults where they borrow DAI. And sometimes if ETH price crashes, you have like half an hour before the prices update. And if you don't close or top up or whatever your position, then it gets liquidated. You have to pay a penalty for that. And what we do basically is before the prices get updated and the positions of the users get liquidated, we refinance their positions to other protocols, for example, like Aave, where collateralization ratios are much less, and positions actually don't get liquidated. And so in like the recent price dumps that happened after May 2021, we refinanced like a couple of $1 million worth of vaults to Aave and saved them from liquidation. And yeah, Gelato is basically, the bots are basically monitoring these and executing these transactions. And then there are multiple other use cases, like we help InstantApp move funds from layer 1 to layer 2. For example, you can migrate your Aave positions from layer 1 to layer 2 at the moment on InstantApp. And what we do there is we monitor when users send funds to these bridge contracts. And then there is this asynchronous process that happens where it takes a bit of time for it to be credited on another network, right? Because your money kind of has to move from one network to another. There's some latency involved. And so usually they have to wait and then send another transaction on another network to actually move their funds back into where they were before in InstantApp. And we kind of like do it recurrently for the users ourselves. So they just have to send one transaction on mainnet, and then all the other transactions on layer 2s or like on other networks are handled by Gelato in the background. So the idea here is for Gelato to be this cross-chain protocol where you can just define the transaction you want to execute on one network, and then all the others on the other network actually handle on your behalf, and then maybe it's even sent back later. So you can predefine those. And then they're also using us to, when they launched their INS token lately, they're using us to automate the liquidity provision management on Uniswap v3. Basically, Gelato is constantly reinvesting the fees there, and we can also rebalance the liquidity around a certain price when it changes. Though at the moment this is done manually to avoid like large and permanent losses. So because this is also a very specific topic that we don't have to get into. But yeah, this is like the three things. We're working together with them, but we are like very close to the InstantApp team, and we are currently investigating how to really natively implement Gelato into their core smart contract system. So actually other developers can use the InstantApp contracts and the Gelato contracts to create completely new automation use cases within the InstantApp platform. So yeah, that's what we're currently working on with them. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some systems soon where actually everyone can comprise and construct these use cases themselves on there, which would be super awesome.
Yeah, a bit of a follow-up there. So could I, as a normal user, use Gelato in any way besides using one of the protocols that is using Gelato right now?
So Gelato is, as you said, this middleware piece. So it's for developers. But developers can, and what we try to do, you can build applications on top or user interfaces on top, which make interacting with Gelato much easier, and also enables end users to really construct arbitrary tasks where you say, hey, I want to call this function. I want to send $100 to my mother every week or something like that. And this is totally possible. It's just it's kind of like people sometimes compare Gelato to IFTT or to Zapier in the real world, where you can kind of automate certain tasks around putting data in Excel sheets and then sending emails from those or something. And this is like Gelato is more the infrastructure that enables something like IFTT or Zapier to be built on top. But it uses the same context. So, but Gelato is like the infrastructure, and what can be built on top is Zapier, but it's also some just use case specific automations. And at the moment, we are currently focused on these specific ones because there's a lot of complexity involved when dealing with money and smart contracts. So having like completely general is very hard, but this is definitely the end goal.
Oh, I just had a follow-up question and I lost it. Yeah, maybe something easier in between, because I'm sure you get that question every day. Why gelato? The name.
Why gelato? Yeah, so I got it actually a couple of times now, and I would have to. So there's multiple stories that we can tell, and it's one question. The original story I'm sometimes too embarrassed to tell, so I always tell like a slightly slightly different story. But yeah, we're actually like nowadays there are a lot of so-called food coins or food projects, right? But I'm very confident in saying we were the first. Gelato was the first, even though many people only find out about it now. Like our infra has been live for quite some time and very much in the backend source. So it's not like we are exposed to end users that often ourselves, which we recently done more. But yeah, we started like in the end of 2019 or like mid 2019 we started Gelato, and we also released some first posts and stuff around it. And yeah, we back then there was like compound finance, and every new project was a financially nerdy name, and we just got super bored of it. And yeah, we were hacking together Gelato in Berlin, Kreuzberg, and there was this awesome gelateria next door, a Sicilian place where we like every day, basically, it's the best ice cream in the world, and we just literally had it every day. And then we just sat there and we say, okay, gelato. Gelato is the name we have to choose here. It's just super easy, super simple, and yeah. And we like a lot of things that are called gelato, basically, and like the ice cream is one of them.
I found that very funny, and I thought that almost, how should we say, underrepresents your protocol.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have high tech, an army of bots, and on the other hand, it's called Gelato.
Yeah, it's like I think our protocol is boring enough for maybe some people outside, and we don't want it to make the name more like it had to be fun. Like we want to make this whole very technical thing fun, and that's why we basically use Gelato.
As I told you before, I'm actually very happy to interview a protocol which does not have a token and tries to sell something. But of course, I have to ask, is there something you can share, some future plans, some alpha about something upcoming?
Yeah, there have been rumors. There have been rumors, but yeah, we are soon to be decentralizing our system. So at the moment, the core development team, which is us, still has some managerial control within the protocol that has like whitelisting bots or some more parameters that we can set that help the system scale nicely at the moment and make it easy to iterate fast, which is our highest objective always, move fast. But of course, as we are getting more serious integrations from high-profile projects, we want to provide them with like a more resilient, decentralized, and also transparent process of how decisions are being done in Gelato, and also want them to participate in these. So Gelato, like the goal is not to create a company or to create this super revenue-generating protocol. Of course, it's nice to have revenue, and I believe there will be huge potential for Gelato. I can tie back into this later in terms of revenue, but the real goal here is really to minimize the value extracted from applications for automating their transactions. And usually at the moment, you have to pay quite a bit for these bots in order to do any sort of jobs. And we really want to have a system where you don't have to pay them that much. They just like get a couple of like a small margin on top of their cost in order to execute it. But like the revenue will come by the long tail of all the applications that use Gelato. And so, yeah, to really have a more transparent process of how things are managed in Gelato, we are creating a DAO, the Gelato DAO around that manages that, a governance system. And to make the system more resilient, we will introduce a token that bot operators have to acquire and stake in the system in order to actually be held accountable for executing transactions that are not in the best interest of the user, because we always try to make it so transactions are, because transactions, if a transaction is good or bad, is quite subjective. Like you can front run, you can back run, you can censor transactions. There's so many things that can go wrong when executing something. And we're talking about millions of dollars being moved. So you have to be extra careful. And that's why we try to hold these bots as accountable as we possibly can. And so they have to provide a financial stake in order to actually execute transactions. And the gel token will come, and people can participate and can govern a system, and the system should be more resilient by having executor stake or the bot operator stake And this is the objective of the token that will come soon.
Very interesting. So not just a classical governance token, so actually a tool to keep your, how should we call them, contributors, bot operators in check. And that brings me to a small follow-up. So if that is not in place right now, does that mean that you're running all the bots, all the infrastructure yourself right now?
Yeah, so we are running some instances of the bots, but we have selected parties that we work with, which are basically also Chainlink node operators. So these are or staking providers. These are like companies that specialize in running infrastructure, and they basically run Gelato bots as well. So we have a couple of them we work with closely, and the goal is basically make this system more decentralized when we open it up more with the Gelato DAO and our token, and then at some point have it maybe completely permissionless. But we have to always keep in mind that we are not like Ethereum, where having 100 bots will make it like much more secure than having like 10 bots or 15 bots. I believe in a system where you're having like 10 or 15 bots that are highly incentivized and can be held accountable and optimized, is better to have like hundreds that are just like small, don't care, just stake just a bit of money. So they don't really care about losing that. So that's more our approach. But at the moment, it's basically us and then select a few parties. But because we want to make this whole thing more transparent, that's why the DAO will take that over.
That's a good follow-up, because I have some coders and developers watching too. If they wanted to use it or run bots, they have to wait still?
Yeah, so the people are reaching out to us. We've got like already a list of people that are interested in that. But yeah, always definitely feel free to reach out to us, and we will have at some point documentation and a process how to get to that stage. And at the beginning, we want to have not only like, we will soon have economic reputation or economic stake that these bots have to provide, but at the moment we also need social reputation or social stake. So we know these people, and it will be made transparent when the DAO launches. So if you really mess up or misbehave with a bot, it's not only the money you lose, it's also like, hey, these guys are ripping off users, and these are like a party we know. And then at some point we can have it so that also anonymous people can just run it, everyone can do it. And this is then the end goal of what we try to achieve, which is completely, no one can take it down. And this is the goal we want to end up with.
Yeah, to be honest, that was what I was thinking about with your example with Maker, for example. If it's a malicious bot operator, it could make more sense for that person to actually liquidate someone instead of saving them with your InstaDApp system. But of course, then again, InstaDApp uses your tech, so it would be on your hands. You need ways to keep bots in check, otherwise it will be anarchy.
Exactly, yeah. And so we believe that like bots are really incentivized to fuck over users because they will extract all the money. Like they just want they run functions which should be, if you think about the incentives, laid out to optimize the revenue of these bots. So that's why you need to design a system in a particular way in order to actually try to align the incentives of the bot with the user. And this is basically what we try to do. Build a system where bots don't screw over users and make it easily accessible to developers. And yeah.
So we're almost at the end already. I think that were the questions I have for Gelato. I guess just in the end, maybe you want to tell something to my people, or leak something or announce something. Don't forget, I will probably need a bit until this interview comes out, so you can pre-announce something if you like, or just share something.
We don't the honest truth is, regarding to, it also took quite a long time now to come to a stage where we soon are able to get do a public token sale. And the reason for that, why it took so long, is basically just like we are 100% focused on shipping. We 100% focused on helping developers build the stuff. And we have really, what I can definitely leak is we have some really cool integrations coming up with some really high-profile protocols that will use Gelato. There's, for example, one. This is kind of like unknown, but we have, for example, a MakerDAO proposal live at the moment to add our g-uni token, which automates liquidity provision management for tokens on Uniswap v3. And we have a proposal on Maker to include that as collateral on their platform. So there might be some ERC20 tokens that automate reinvestments on Uniswap be added as collateral to Maker, and all the transactions, of course, are powered by Gelato. So this would be, of course, very huge, because we think there will be like millions flowing into the system. And yeah, we are like also in like discussions with projects on Polygon, for example, let's say large DEXs there, that are thinking about hooking up our limit orders natively on their application, which will drive like huge traffic as well to the Gelato system. So yeah, that's the beauty of Gelato. Everyone can plug into it, everyone can use it, and we just try to make it as easy as possible. And yeah, there will be cool integrations coming up, so stay tuned.
Oh, that's nice. I have to be honest, I would collateralize my g-uni immediately. So that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I had for you today. Thank you very much for taking the time and sitting down with us.
Thank you. And yeah, hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe. More content on this channel.
Oh, thank you.
Stay tuned. Happy mining and bye.
Thank you for that. That's awesome.